Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Senior Fellow at the Media Research Center. Well, last night it happened. President Trump made his second Supreme Court nomination. This time it was Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I have to tell you, I was kind of hoping for Judge Amy Barrett or also Judge Hardiman, but any of the four would be a great choice. And I think that we see a good, strong conservative choice. Maybe there are some things about Judge Kavanaugh's, some of his decisions, some of the things in his record that can be questioned. But without a doubt, he has a solid record. You know, I would rather not have seen a DC insider. But let's understand something that last night we saw the delusion, the dimension, we saw the incredible derangement already happen for the progressive socialist left. No matter who President Trump picked last night, they were going to be against him. And as a matter of fact, I found it rather interesting that there were press releases going out that just had Judge fill in the blank or Judge XXX, and they were already, incredible DNC advertisements going out calling Judge Kavanaugh an extremist. I tend to believe that they had that set up for no matter who the nominee would be. So what is really causing the left to have this apoplectic meltdown when it comes to the courts? Just think about it. A couple of weeks ago, those Supreme Court decisions that came down that the fact that now we do not have to force employees into government employee unions, what happened with the Masterpiece Bakery case, or even what we saw happen that the president can, temporarily ban people who are coming here from countries that are on our terrorist watch list. Those are all common sense decisions. Those are all decisions that were based upon the Constitution of the United States of America. But what we see happening with the progressive socialist left is that they don't want to see our courts be, as Judge Kavanaugh said last night, interpreters of the law. They want to see a court that implements law. They want to see a court that creates law. They want to see a court that believes in judicial activism. And that is what has thrown the left into an incredible tizzy right now. Because the whole point of them, coming out and asking about Roe versus Wade or coming out and asking about Obamacare is not about the interpretation of our Constitution. It is about their own ideological agenda. For so many years, the left has used the courts to be the implementer of their beliefs and their agenda items, not taking it through the legislative process, which sometimes they cannot be successful in, but instead having it mandated through the judicial system. And for right now, we see an opportunity for us to reframe the Supreme Court, reframe the judicial branch of the United States of America to do as it's supposed to do. Now, what I find quite hypocritical is that you have heard the left many times say that the Second Amendment should be repealed. I thought that if something was established and had precedent, it was there. I'm kind of glad that some of these leftists weren't around with the Dred Scott decision, because I'm kind of glad the Dred Scott decision got overturned. So why should we not be able to go back and look at some of the things and reevaluate it against the Constitution of the United States of America? Most people will tell you, most jurists, most honest jurists will tell you that Roe versus Wade was kind of a bad decision. Think about it. The Supreme Court created a right for people to take a right away from others, because it is all about taking away the life of an unborn baby. That's what Roe versus Wade is all about. And as a black man, I will tell you that since 1973 in Roe versus Wade, 17 to 18 million black babies have been murdered in the womb. To me, that's genocidal. To me, that's something we need to relook. But then also, when you look at the Obergefell versus Hodges case, which was the case that established same-sex marriage being the law of the land, how is it that the Supreme Court could create a new right called marriage equality? And then how is it that the Supreme Court could tell the entire country that they made a law and it was called same-sex marriage? But yet, for some odd reason, the Second Amendment is not regarded as a law all over the land, even though we've had two major decisions, Heller versus DC, which took care of the Second Amendment at the federal level, and then also McDonald versus Chicago, which supposedly took care of the Second Amendment at the state and the municipal level. See, the left just wants to use the courts to implement their ideological agenda. That's it. They don't care about our Constitution. And right now, they see that Supreme Court slipping away. And I have a message to our progressive socialist friends. President Trump will probably get an opportunity to name 3 more Supreme Court justices. I don't think Justice Ginsburg, Justice Breyer, and Justice Thomas are going to be around for too much longer. And if the left continues to act as they are, President Trump will definitely get a second term. So that takes it out to 2024. It's time that the left understands that we have a thing called separation of powers. We have 3 branches of government. We have co-equal branches. We have a system of checks and balances. The Supreme Court does not exist to implement their ideological agenda. The Supreme Court is there to interpret the law of the land, which is the Constitution. It is not something that they should be able to use for their own pet projects. And I'm quite sure that the folks there at the Media Research Center will do a fantastic job in looking at the media reaction to Judge Kavanaugh as we go through this hearing confirmation process. And I bet it'll be a lot different from the hearing confirmation process for Justices Kagan and also Justices Sotomayor. Because don't forget, Barack Obama got to name 2 Supreme Court justices as well, and many Republicans did vote for them. And think about this. Judge Kavanaugh ended up being the selection because President Trump and others wanted to try to take that path of least resistance. Because to think that you have Republicans, certainly Democrats, that say they don't want a judge that will rule based upon the Constitution. That's a sad state of affairs in the United States of America. And that's why we need to, once again, teach civics more than any other course, especially women's studies.